All right, I'm going to take a brief moment to talk about my tools here. I'm going to drop the lead rope. So when you're doing in-hand work, you've got a couple different things you can use, and I encourage people to use what they've got. You don't necessarily have to invest in a whole bunch of expensive equipment, but I've got a couple simple things here. This is a dressage whip. They're usually under 48 inches. I think this one's like 47 and a half or what have you, but standard dressage whip size. It has some flex to it. It's got the little tassel thing on the end, and it'll make, I mean, if I really swish it, it'll make a little bit of a noise. So that's one stick. This one is an in-hand whip. There goes Halo. This one is an in-hand whip. It's closer to 5 feet long. This is good for touching different body points that are further down on the horse. And it's got a little bit more rigidity than the dressage whip, but it's got a good feel to it, and you can use it to touch points from a little further away, or if you've got a bigger horse. This one is my driving training whip. It is 7 or 8 feet long. This one happens to be in 2 pieces for ease of travel, and it's got a 3-foot lash on it. Obviously, I can be much further away from my horse. This is more for long lining rather than in-hand work. It would be something this long is going to be a little awkward working in hand. My last one here is what you might term as a training stick. Depending on who's trying to sell it, it might be a handy stick, it might be a carrot stick. I jokingly refer to them as a snazzy stick because, you know, they're so snazzy, trademark. And buy mine because it's the best. Anyways, I don't have my own snazzy stick. I just call it that. So this is kind of a rigid piece. It's fiberglass, I believe. It's got a string on the end. You can pull the string off. It actually just loops on there. This one has kind of a rubber piece on the end. Some of them have a little leather piece on the end. But the string can come on or off. Pulling it off makes it a little easier to deal with when you're just doing in-hand stuff. But I will note that this is kind of a blunt force object. This is something that you use to keep the horse out of your space. 4 feet is good for most horses. It keeps you out of the kick zone. So if you got somebody who's especially pushy, you might use this. That said, this is not as good for refined movements because it's heavy. This weighs more than this. You know, this is a lot more difficult to balance too. And if it's good for some things, there's reason I have it, especially if I'm leading a baby draft horse, Halo, who's a little pushy in my space. It gives me something that I can give her for sure, hey, don't move into this area. So I have them, but I don't use them for refined work. What we're going to use today mostly is the dressage whip, but I wanted to do a little spiel on the different types of sticks. I also have a draft horse show stick. Halo, can you walk? Thank you. I also have a draft horse show stick, which is about 24 inches long. It's made out of a similar material to this, and it's also kind of a blunt force object, but if you're leading a pushy horse, it gives you something that's a little bit more solid to tell them to get out of your space. So different things for different situations. For the most part, I'm going to go for the dressage whip. If I'm doing long lining, I'm going to go for the driving whip. And I'm not going to use the blunt force beating stick here. Halo.